So, Jenks, when you look at these bets, is there
Mm-hmm.
anything that sticks out to you, whether it's the win total, whether it's to make the playoffs, which I'm laughing as I'm saying that, or even bigger laugh, plus 750 to win the AFC East?
I don't think they're going to win this division at all. I don't even like the value. I think this is a team that's going to have everything break the right way for them to have a decent season. And it's really crazy when you think about the history here. During Bill Belichick's time, even now, they have won the AFC East 17 out of 19 years, including 11 straight. That's how much they've dominated this division for 2 decades. And of course, you can't mention that without saying, well, yes, this was under Tom Brady. Brady left the team in 2019, has made the playoffs only once, the Patriots, I should say, back in 2020. They've done really not much at all since Brady left. So when I look at the board here and I'm trying to find value, I just don't see it. Yes, to make the playoffs at plus 240. They're not making the playoffs. Plus 750 to win the AFC East. I think I might go under their win total at 7 and a hook. I need to take a closer look at their schedule. That is minus 115. But for them to win football games, Chelsea, that's the only bet on the board that maybe I would make. I do, however, really like the addition of Gesicki at tight end. He was very good for the Dolphins, and then what happened was he kind of got lost in the new offensive system, didn't really have a place there, so he should fare better than I think we expect in New England. Outside of that, this is going to be a team that's going to have to hand the ball off to Ramondre Stevenson, have Mac Jones drive the car, if you will. They shouldn't expect him to do anything special because I don't think he has the weapons around him to do that anyway, and then rely on a defense that has been great for a decade. Outside of that, the Patriots just aren't going to wow you. They're going to have to be well coached, not turn the ball over, and rely on that defense.
Oh, for sure. And you know the tweet that lives rent-free in my mind? That one where we talked about where somebody said, Mac Jones looks like he sleeps in a race car bed. Like, doesn't he look like he'd still be like a 12-year-old and he still kind of carries himself that way? So I will always think about that. You said Mac Jones drives the car, and I thought of him going, vroom, vroom, vroom. And he peels back the cover and says, Mom, I'm ready for some cereal. That's how I imagined Mac Jones. But when you look at the Patriots, do you ever think that there is some bias built into how good the Patriots are going to be just based on Bill Belichick? Because in years past, you say, okay, maybe hire Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, but doesn't he get some credit for being one of the better head coaches in the NFL? So maybe we let this ride. I think for me, that assumption is over. Like, Bill, I think you're going to have to earn it back, especially in this division. But you were telling us before we went on air how bad the vibes were last year. You could feel the tension brewing. We saw a blow up from Mac Jones on the sideline, which seems very uncharacteristic of somebody like that who is usually pretty stoic. What are the vibes now? Do they seem to have gotten any better?
Yes, the vibes have definitely been better. And throughout last season's OTA program, there was like a little bit of optimism, and then it quickly went south within like the first few days of training camp. And it feels a little bit similar to that right now. I think the offseason program had a different feel, especially when we were out there with OTAs. It was just my main takeaway, especially watching the offense, was that Bill O'Brien has complete control, as well as Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones already has a good understanding of what O'Brien wants to do offensively. It's going to be, a very matchup-driven scheme. They're not going to ask him to do too much. He needs to be smart with the football, and I think that's Mac Jones' strength is, his cerebralness, his brain. Cerebralness is a little bit longer of a word than I wanted to use here, but you understand what I'm trying to say. I just think the vibes are better. It's gonna depend on what Mac Jones can do with the weapons that he was provided. And the Patriots lost the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstake. Personally, I would have went all in for him. I just think a guy like that can elevate your offense so much. It gives the defense someone that you need to scheme up every single Sunday. And now the Patriots kind of just have a bunch of number 2s and 3s. So it's going to be heavily on Bill O'Brien. And I think that, going back to the vibes were high because of what O'Brien showed us throughout the first couple open media OTAs. So we'll be back down there Wednesday for training camp. I think the vibes are that, we're turning over a new leaf. They're turning over a new leaf. And, they seem excited and ready to go. So Again, hopefully, it's a tough division, the AFC East. I see the odds on the screen right now. The Patriots rocking dead last at plus 750. So it's tough, but I think, they're all going to compete for the postseason. I really believe that, and the Patriots can squeak in again. I believe that they have the option, the ability to get there.
What are you going to take away from the press conferences for Aaron Rodgers? Because for me, he can say anything wildly, out in left field, and I won't really care because he's always been like that, and nothing at this point is going to shock me.
Aren't bananas supposed to be good for your eyesight? Is that a wives' tale? Do you remember hearing that when you were growing up?
That's carrots, right?
Oh, it's carrots. Okay, I was like, what am I missing here?
Nailed it.
Because I was gonna be like Aaron Rodgers, great, best shape of his life, but totally blind because he's avoiding bananas. Okay, I'm glad it's carrots. I'm not. Look, it's great fodder. Aaron Rodgers, I will say this, is an interesting person. I don't necessarily buy everything he says because I think he figured out the trick a couple years ago. I need the attention. I want the attention. If I say a certain thing, people are going to talk about it. So I take everything that he says with a grain of salt. More than any other player in the NFL, where you have to push aside what that player is saying and just focus on the results, I feel like it's Aaron Rodgers. Now, when he says his joints feel good, I believe that. When he's saying, I'm not eating bananas or what, I'm like, okay, I'm glad you feel good. That's all this other stuff I feel like is noise. And sometimes, again, it's said just for the sake of bringing the spotlight upon him. But with Aaron Rodgers, you just focus on results.
Well, here's the counterpoint. Tom Brady was really I want to say anal about these things, but that sounds weird. But you get what I'm trying to say about his diet. He is very particular. Maybe that's the word that I should use for like the 7th grade sense of humor people out there. But you get what I'm saying. So like there has been a template for it for these quarterbacks who are very mindful of what they put in their bodies. And look at how long Tom Brady played. So maybe it's crazy and maybe it looks weird on the surface, but if it works, it works. Whatever works for you, brother. I don't care as long as you are putting good football out on the field.
Who is your Monday MVP?
Oh, man, this is a tough one. It's not Sophia Smith. Great performance, but also the total was set at 6 and a hook. You guys won by 3-0. I was on the Americans, over 6.5 over Vietnam. Great performance, but Jonas Vingegaard, I read about that whole controversy where Vingegaard's team was being accused of another team of drinking beers on their day off. I don't know if you saw this story, just ridiculous stuff. Regardless, I am going with Brian Harman here. And I'm tempted to go with Leo Messi because Leo Messi, in that moment, to perform the way he did, that was an unbelievable free kick. I mean, nobody's touching that. Absolute world class. He delivered in that moment. But I'll give it to Brian Harman just because he came out of nowhere. 125-1. And this is a guy who I was not aware of much about Brian Harman. I had heard about him. I knew he was a solid golfer. I believe he was ranked 34th in the world coming into this. But I did a deep dive reading about him going back into his days in college. And back in 2009 when he was playing for Georgia, he was going up against Ricky Fowler, who was playing for Oklahoma State at the time, and they were battling to see which team would advance to the semifinals. And he was on, I believe it was the 16th hole, getting ready to putt, and Ricky Fowler and his caddy walked away getting ready for the next hole. Didn't even care about what he was doing because they were so confident they were going to win. And Harman looked at his caddy and said, that just fries me. I'm about to kick his ass. And you know what? He birdied the rest of the way out, ended up advancing. He's played with that mentality his entire career. I like his story. I went into the deep dive. Good for Brian Harman. Paul Azinger says he eats hot dogs and apple pie. I don't know if that's true, but I'll go with the American.
Yeah, you got to go with the American here because what a dominant weekend from Brian Harman from start to finish. Listen, I'll say it once, I'll say it again. If I were to ever trust somebody to sink a putt to save my life, wouldn't it be Brian Harman over the weekend? This guy was nails from inside 10 feet. 58 of 59 from under 10 feet when it comes to putting, and even from the longer putts. Every time you thought that there may be an opening for somebody to make this tournament interesting, Brian Harman would sink like a 30-footer, and it would go in the entire way. It looked like this guy had tiger vision. He was seeing the line so cleanly on the golf course, it felt like he couldn't miss a putt. So not only to have a great tournament, but to do it in dominating fashion over some of the best golfers in the world when you have Jon Rahm on your tail and you don't even give him an inch. Yeah, what a performance by Brian Harman, the putting master over the weekend and the master of the Open Championship, American Brian Harman, putting down, the rest of the European Ryder Cup team to put Team USA across the top of the leaderboard. Let's go, Brian Harman.